extra seating if anybody else would like to have a seat. Then family and friends, at this time, we will be rendering military honors. Company veterans and civilian retired youth may render a hand salute. All others, it is custom if you are able, as you are to stand, and place your right hand over your heart. Detail! Secure! You may be seated.
Judy, come on. of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation. Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for Logan's honorable and faithful service.
On behalf of the Department of Veterans Affairs, the staff here at the Dallas Fort Worth National Cemetery, please accept this presidential memorialization certification in remembrance of Michael T. Russell, honorary, swearing, with faithful service. Family and friends, the floor is now open for anyone that would like to speak.
Are you ready? Go for it.
Hi, everybody. It's been a tough year. As you guys know now, and we weren't really good at informing everybody. Larry, sorry about you and your wife not being able to come to the funeral for my mom, but lost my mom in July. Lost my father-in-law on the 14th of October. And lost my dad on the 25th of October. It's been just a rough ride, and my mom had very detailed plans about what she wanted for her funeral. My dad was more easygoing, so that's why we decided to do something smaller here. We got some friends and stuff that really wanted to be here from my neighborhood, and I let them know this was going to be smaller. So the people here affected my mom and dad's life in a great way, and we're just really close to them, and I appreciate that from all y'all. You guys have been helpful for us since me and Gary were 11. We know almost everybody here, and Mike was 13. But I really appreciate all the support and the well wishes we're getting from everybody, and I'm sorry that Mike and I aren't there communicating these kind of issues. But I wanted to talk a little about my dad. I think everybody looks at their father the same way. You see him as somebody strong or knowledgeable or wisdom. But I never could quantify my dad's presence. When he was around, he didn't worry about anything, you know. He was always good at fixing things. He could get a little upset from time to time, but he never was going to hurt you. He'd get head tapping, you know. But he was the guy who taught me how to fix things. He was the guy who taught me how to love others. He was the guy who taught me how to be strong, like I am right now. This is funny. But he taught me to respect women and how to treat my wife and my aunts and uncles, and he just was a guy who led from a very quiet place. I wrote something, didn't write it for a while, but I'll fumble this one. But I was talking to Larry and Terry earlier, and a lot of people thought, and Tom, oh, my dad was a simple man. So I wrote a poem called Simple Man. I should have brought my glasses. Born during the last World War, there was no choice for him but to become something more. Oldest of 5 and easy in his way, through labor and work he
put on a quiet display. Sound principles, a body strength, and a stare that could make almost all men quake. He was tough like a root that pulls strength from the ground. There was never a doubt his foundation was sound. There was a gentleness, but behind the man it would hide, and few ever saw that elusive side. To those that he loved, there was never any fear. Being around him was to feel secure. Looking past the defenses to the core of the man, a young lady passed where not one had ever been. Brunette and beautiful, she brought him alive and loved the whole man. She was always by his side. 3 sons they would have, all strong and true. A simple man, some would say, but oh, if you only knew. A husband, father, and friend to all. There will never be a man who stands as tall. That'd be great. I'll leave you with this. Mike's gonna come up. There's some programs here, and then the poinsettias were from Hurley. My father-in-law always gave out poinsettias around this time of year to all the family. So if you want something to remember people by, please take one of these. Just put it in your window. Remember my mom and Hurley too. But, thank you for coming, Mike.
Yeah, good job. I got it.
Well, that was beautiful. Thank you, Pete. Thank everybody for coming and supporting our family in this time. I appreciate that each of you have honored my father by being here today, and I wish that he known how many people would show up. I can't believe that this is already over. I fully expected him to live another 20 years, but I guess it was just finally too much. Last night when I was driving home, I heard This American Life. Did anybody else hear it? They were talking to researchers who went up to study wolves at Yellowstone when they reintroduced them. And we watched the wolves for 20 or 30 years. And he described a family of wolves where the main leader of the pack was killed, and another wolf came in and was smaller, and he was nicer, and he took care of the pups, and he raised them. He was called number 8, and raised the pups up, and one of the male pups stayed with him as he grew, and longer than normally the pups would, because normally male pups would split off, and the pup got bigger and stronger. He was just an alpha, and they would hunt together, and they would watch them. And these are the same wolves that changed the whole park, because they hunted the elk and the deer, and they brought back the beaver and allowed the trees to grow. And they worked together, and the alpha, because he was younger, he could get to the game faster. He would take it down, and then his father would come in and help him with the kill. And then they would work together, and eventually the alpha had to go off and find his own family, and that's what he did. And the researcher kept watching. And he was worried about the older, nicer wolf that was smaller, because it had its pack, but it was the leader, and he was taking his pack through the park, and they had trackers on them. And the alpha had gone into another pack that had a female leader, and she was just terrible. And she would eat the pups of other wolves, and she would, they called her a psycho. And so he was linked up with her, and that pack was coming, and they were crossing paths with his father's pack. And this researcher was telling the reporter how scared he was that the older, nicer wolf would become a victim when the two packs came together and fought. And he saw the packs from a distance coming across the valley. And they were coming up, and the alpha was charging, and his whole pack was following him. And the other pack started running downhill, and they were coming right at each other. And at the last moment, the alpha just turned slightly away and walked right past his father. And they walked in opposite directions. And instead of fighting, they just took their packs and went the opposite directions. It was against all their instincts. And I felt when I heard that this is the kind of thing that my father inspired in me. I went out 30 years ago trying to make my own life. He always was there to support me. He always had our backs when we were kids. And then I came back here to try to support him. And we passed. I love my dad. He was a good father. And I can see that he inspired kindness in all of you. And I thank you for coming. I love all you. And I'm really happy to have some other people here when he goes. Thank my brother. He's done a great job in organizing all these events and cremation and everything. And please come out to eat with us later. If anybody else has anything they want to say, this is the time to say it, so we can say goodbye. Love you all.
How y'all doing? My name's Larry Guthrie. I've been Mike and Nancy's neighbor for the last 27 years. Mike took mercy on me when we moved in. He looked at me and said, that guy has no business owning a house. Because I was not a handyman. First thing Mike did was help me fix a cabinet drawer that broke. I had no clue how to do it. He helped me install an oven vent, a stove vent. He taught me that maybe the trash people would not like to pick up my trash can the way I had it turned, because I didn't know you're supposed to turn it a certain way. But he taught me those things. He taught my son, who's just turned 30, the love of rocks, and the love of polishing rocks, and the love of searching for rocks. And that's something that he'll carry for the rest of his life, being a rock hound. And that's because of Mike and his love for rocks. He was a good neighbor and a good friend. We had a lot of passionate conversations. A lot of times we agreed, a lot of times we didn't agree, but it was always out of respect. I will miss him and your mom.
Thank you, Larry.
Hey y'all, I'm Tom Dykes, and this is kind of interesting because I was the neighbor in the house before Larry. And it's interesting looking around, seeing family and friends and neighbors. They were such great neighbors. Really taught us how to be good neighbors. And both of our children were born while we lived there, so they were surrogate grandparents to our children. Just a wonderful, wonderful family, and a great example to me of compassion. I think the only time I ever disagreed with Mike on political things, which was pretty much every single time, I was always impressed that what he believed was driven out of compassion. And beautiful thing. Great man.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Terry Allen. 2 doors down. And I had a house before, and so I had a lot of tools, a lot of this and that, but many times I didn't have the right tool. Mike would be out in his driveway doing something. Hey Mike, do you have this? Do you have that? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Hey, those of you that's seen his garage know he'll go back into the garage, dig around a little bit, go, yeah, I got that. So yeah, he was always kind of a go-to person when I needed something as far as fixing things like that. We'd have them over for, I was reminded of this, for a Mexican train, come over New Year's Eve, kind of get together. That way they didn't have to drive too far home, just walk a couple houses down. So we'll miss them. Had some good conversations with Nancy also. Since she had retired from the school district, I work for the school district now, and it's like, okay, what about this insurance when I go to retire? What about this? What about that? So who's your doctor for this? Who's your doctor for that as I get older? So we'll miss both of them.
Thank you.
I don't know how much this I'm going to get through. I'm Kelly. Next to his sister. We're the bookends of the family. And he's the oldest, I'm the youngest. And we were both born, well, members of our family were serving, so he was born when my dad was in World War II serving, and I was born when Mike was in Vietnam serving. And I can't imagine, as a mom, what that was like for my mom. Have babies and be worried about people that you loved in bad situations, but we 22 years apart, but we had a lot in common. We both got our mother's coloring and a lot of her features and the same sort of easygoing nature that she had, and we got a lot of our confidence from our dad and a lot of his ability to just kind of walk in a room and talk to people and get to know people and be real easy. And he was, not around while I was a kid. I was so much younger that I had this ghost brother out there somewhere that was a war hero, and he was a code breaker, and he was a big tough guy and played football and all these things. So as a kid, I kind of associated him. We lived in Southern California with his family, and sort of associated him with like action stars of the 70s. So like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jan Michael Vincent, and all these tough guys, all these blonde tough guys, and Kurt Russell was in a lot of Disney movies at the time that I was growing up, and he was blonde and just real athletic and kind of funny and goofy, and I was like, maybe that's my brother because we have the same last name, so maybe he's really my brother in disguise, and all kinds of crazy things that you think when you're a kid. And then, he had his boys, and I met them, and I was like, well, these are my brothers, because we're all the same age, and that must be my uncle, and, just a lot of crazy stuff that kids can't figure out. And always had rocks in my pocket growing up, always carried rocks around, so who knows what that's about, but, I just want to say that we had special times every so many years, I going into 7th grade, and we spent a summer in Southern California. It was the first time I went to the Pacific Ocean, and I remember being at a beach house with my older brother Mike and his kids, and then going into 8th grade, we got a cabin in the UP, and Mike and I were on the dock, and he was teaching me how to fish, and then I was like coming out of freshman year of high school, and we were at our grandparents' farm in Lower Michigan, and hanging out, watching lightning bugs, and so there were all these kind of special times, and the boys would be raucous and running around, and I'd be playing with the boys, and we'd be getting into stuff or doing things that were too much, and Mike would be like, I brought you into this world, I'm gonna take you out. And I'd be like, oh, because my parents never yelled at me for anything. I'd be like, oh, and he looked over at me and he'd wink at me and I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, I know what side I'm on, that's good. And it was just a really great, sort of figure for me to look up to. And then when we moved to Texas a few years ago, about 8 years ago, I got to see him more regularly. Nancy would come to our house and spend a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or however long they wanted to stay with us around the holidays, and got to talk to him a lot about parenting and kids and seeing his boys grow up and knowing what my girls were like. And there was just a lot of parallels that we had learned from our parents, but we ended up having so much in common. And it was just really great to get to spend these last 8 or so years here in Texas with them, and getting to spend so much more time getting to know them. And we lost our parents a long time ago, so it was kind of hard to lose him and Nancy this summer, because I feel like I've gone through losing parents all over again. And it's kind of a funny thing, but I'm really, really glad to be here with family, and I hope some family stays. And I just want to say, even that hero that I thought he was when I was a little kid, he really was that hero as a man, so I want to miss him. That's it.
Thanks, George.
You guys did a great job, by the way. Sorry.
Anyone else at this time? Then Russell family, at this time, this does end the services here today. Again, on behalf of the staff here at your Dallas-Fort Worth National Cemetery, again, our condolences on the loss of your loved one. Please know that your loved one is also our veteran, whose final resting place is with his wife, she with her husband, both amongst his brothers and sisters in arms. You may visit both of your loved ones today after 1600 hours, which is 4 p.m., or any day after today, 7 days a week, from sun up until sundown. Family and friends, please know that there is no pain nor sorrow that heaven cannot heal. I pray that you all take care of each other today and each day after. To our veterans in attendance today, thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice. To the Russell children, family, and friends, thank you so much for his service and his sacrifice. God bless you all. At this time, you are dismissed.
Thanks everybody for coming. On your way out, I have a small treat in the back of my car that you can have, and please take a poinsettia or one of the flyers on your way out.
I have a reservation at Topacito's right off of 12 as you go back north.